Hello and welcome. All right, so for today we're going to be doing a cage cleaning video, kind of. So this is kind of my cleaning routine video, and I have all the clips, so I'm just going to be doing a voiceover for it. Now, unfortunately, I did lose the slow footage of my big cage clean that I do once every 3 weeks, and I only have a time lapse, and I'm just going to have to repeat that time lapse as I explain what's going on. I do apologize for that. If I decide to make this a annual video, as I do sometimes with some videos, then next year's will hopefully have the correct kind of footage and it won't be as bad. But yeah, let's get into it. So here for the first thing I do is every Tuesday and Thursday, I go in and I spot clean. So basically what that means is I take out all the nesting material, as you can see me doing here. I trade out any of the soiled fleece. I check to see if their paper bags for the doubles need to be removed. I take out any little stray poops and I fill up their foraging toys. So that is what I'm doing here. And then it also changes depending on what cage it is. So like for this cage, this is the cage for my group of 6 girls. I do also take a baby wipe and have to clean off at least these top 2 shelves every single time I do a spot clean, because they pee on those like nobody's freaking business. And I probably need to look into replacements soon because they just go to town on those. But that's okay because, every cage is different. Like the dwarfs I have to do a lot more with. I have to clean out their hides. I have to remove nesting material constantly. I have to do their spiderweb hammocks. Sometimes I have to do their baskets as well. The dwarfs are really, really, really messy. They pee on absolutely everything. And then you have the gravies, who are actually really polite, and they have designated corners where they go to the bathroom. And so I barely have to do anything with their cage on spot cleaning day. So, different rats are going to have different things, have different needs, that kind of thing. But yeah, so that is what I do. I do this twice a week, and I find that it keeps the cage nice and fresh during the week. And one thing to keep in mind is you don't want to over clean either. You don't want to remove so much of their scent that they feel the need to scent mark. That's one of the issues I have with the dwarf cage, is finding that balance between keeping it clean and not smelling, and not making them feel like they need to make it smell, which can be frustrating. All right, for the next step is my cage maintenance day, is what I call it, but I feel like a lot of people would more refer to it as like a light cleaning, because I do a lot of work on these. Now, as you can see, I am using the cage with the group of 6 girls because it's just easier to film in this room than in the other room with all the other rats. So like that is why I decided to go with this cage. And I'll probably continue to do that for the same reason. It's all about how easy it is to film. But so I clean the cage, full clean, every third week. And the 2 weeks in between, I will do cage maintenance, which is what I call it. And that is when I will go in and I'll change out all the hammocks. I'll change out all the litter boxes, the litter baskets, wipe everything down. I'll remove all nesting material regardless of how soiled it is. I'll wipe everything down, and then I will replace all that stuff with fresh things. And I do that so that nothing smells for too long, and it's like a nice little cage reset, basically. So as you can see, I'm removing all the fleece materials. I change out the spiderweb hammocks for those that don't need it done every 2 days. And then I remove the hammocks. I will wipe down the plastic bits, which is going to be like their hides and their baskets. I will dump all the litter out of their middle trays and their litter box tray that's usually at the bottom. And then I will also wipe down any of the wooden items. I will go in and I'll remove all the poops again. I'll clean the wheel, and then I will replace all these items with fresh new ones. And I do this I do it for 2 Saturdays, and then a cage clean, and then 2 Saturdays. So this is like a weekly cage maintenance thing. And that's what I do for the doubles. Now, Junimo and Joja are in a single story, and I do basically the same thing. It's just like not quite as much. Junimo and Joja are pretty clean, neat rats, so I don't have to do too much with them, but I will go in and I will wipe down everything, remove their litter trays, fix everything up in there. But it's not as much work because there's no like middle litter trays, like the metal little litter trays. And Junimo and Joja are pretty, again, they're pretty neat, but they do poop at the bottom a lot. I find that is an issue with single stories. So, like, if you're having an issue with keeping your cage clean and it's a single story, I would, and if you're capable, I understand it's a very expensive thing, but if you can make it a double, I do find that actually helps with my rats a ton. They become way more polite with where they go to the bathroom most of the time. I will say with my group of 6 girls, the quad is not polite. Specifically, I do think it's Blooper. She will poop all over the bottom. She does not care about the designated litter spots at all. She is very rude about that. But that's okay because I don't actually care. It's like I have to clean it up either way. So it's like either I clean it up every couple of days or I have to scrape it out of their trays. Because the metal trays, while they're great and I do love them, they aren't perfect because I use paper pellets. But even if I used another kind of litter, the rats really like to kick all the litter out of the corners that they go to the bathroom in and then go to the bathroom in those corners. So sometimes you get issues with things getting stuck to the bottom of the trays, which is frustrating. So what I do when that happens is I'll take a baby wipe and I'll lay it over the spot that needs to be cleaned and I'll just soak it in my either Dawn vinegar and water solution or just my Dawn and water solution. And I'll just let it sit for like a few minutes. And that usually takes care of the problem, which yes, is gross, but you know, rats are rats. They are living animals. They are not plushies. They are not toys. They poop, they pee, they make messes. And you just have to kind of deal with it and take care of it as you go. Now here you'll notice that I did move the group of 6 into their carrier. You can probably see them kind of bustling around back there. And since this does not take me very long. For me, the cage maintenance days, it's about 35 minutes per cage. I'd say closer to 25 minutes for the single story, but for the doubles, it's 35 minutes. So I will just put them in their carrier because it's comfortable in there for them. They're familiar with it. It's like a safe space to them. And since it's only for 30 minutes, it's not that big of a deal. And that's what I do with this group. With my other groups, I do let them free roam on the desk. And I don't give them anything new to keep them entertained because it's only for about 30 minutes, as I said. And I'm in the room with them, so there's only so much trouble they can get into while I'm busy cleaning their cage and stuff. And in here, when I'm in the living room, I'll just put something on the TV to keep me entertained. But when I am doing the other cages in my bedroom, I do listen to music. And for me, I kind of actually enjoy these moments. I'm kind of weird in that I don't mind mindless, tedious tasks because it's just like relaxing to me. So like I just kind of get to it and I vibe. Cappy always hated it when she had to clean her cage, and I understand a lot of people also really hate that. But for me, it's all like almost therapeutic because I just kind of process things that have been going on throughout the week. So like when it's big cage cleaning day where I have to do 3 cages in my bedroom, it can get pretty rough if I've had a bad week. But at the same time, I feel so much better at the end of it. But I do understand that's not going to be everyone's thing, and that's completely fine. For me, I find it enjoyable. But yeah, for the group of 6, you have to put them in the carrier since I don't want them free roaming in a room without me in it. Rats can get into a lot of trouble. They can fall, they can hurt themselves, they can break their legs, they can even accidentally give themselves fatal injuries. So I just don't personally like to let mine free roam when I am out of the room. So for this group, they get put in a carrier because it is much safer for them. I do know some people who do prefer to let their rats free roam like all night, for example, in a secure room. I don't think that's a good idea, especially if you have older rats with dexterity issues. I typically have senior rats, and a lot of times they will have things like HLD or arthritis or other mobility problems because they're old, and I just don't think it's necessarily the safest thing for them to be free roaming without supervision. But that is just my opinion. Now, since I did lose all of my footage for my big cage clean, except for the time lapse, I am going to just talk about it here, and then we'll watch the time lapse, and hopefully you'll still be able to get something out of it. I do apologize for that issue. So with the way I do my cages, it's going to depend on the materials you use, your rats, their behaviors, their personalities, that kind of thing. But with the way I do my cages, I can clean them every 3 weeks, and I find that that is a good balance. Like, it doesn't get too smelly, it doesn't get too messy, they don't get like raspy or anything like that. So some rats need more frequent cage cleaning. It depends on how big your group is, how messy they are, how much they pee, if they're males, females, dwarfs, standards. There's a lot of factors into how often you need to clean your cages. I do find for mine 3 weeks works pretty well. And so the biggest difference between my big cage cleaning and my cage maintenance is that I clean absolutely everything on big cage clean day, which means I remove everything. I take out the water bottles, the water bowl, everything inside the cage. I spray it all down. I refresh everything in there. I then put completely new bedding in because I take out every bit of bedding, including everything at the bottom. And then I will replace everything with new things that are fresh and clean. So like that means I spray down the bars, I spray down the trays, I spray down absolutely everything you see here, including the wooden items. Sometimes I'll soak the ropes and the ledges and stuff as well. I can show you how I do that during my next intro, which will probably be sometime pretty soon. But I can absolutely show you how I soak everything during those times. And just let me know if that's something that you would like to see. I'm more than happy to share it with you. Now, for big cage cleaning day, I put this group into the cage that you see on top of their Critter Nation because I just don't want them in the carrier for like an hour and a half, which is how long it takes me to do the big cages. Big cage cleaning day, it's an hour and a half for the doubles and about 50 minutes to an hour for the singles. And that's just because it's so much more work. I do so much more with it. So I do prefer to keep them in a smaller cage with a water bottle and a hammock so that I know that they have, resources and comfort. So, and I also, that means I get to look over and see them watching me clean their cage. With my other groups, I do let them free roam on the desk. I give them foraging toys, extra water. I try to keep a closer eye on them just to make sure they're not getting into trouble while I'm cleaning their cage. But I do free roam them because I'm in the room with them and there aren't cats in the room with them. So it's safer to let them free roam than this group. And most people don't, and that is absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with putting them in a secure cage so that you don't have to worry about them. I have had issues with rats that have had health problems getting into some kind of trouble during free roam, but to be fair, sometimes that is just how it goes, even if I'm like sitting right with them. But yes, it's completely fine to just stick them in a secure cage as opposed to letting them free roam while you clean it. So for this cage on cage clean day, I usually start in the afternoon, usually around like 1:15, something like that. And I'm not done until 2:30 to 3, usually closer to 3. I do find this cage takes me a little bit longer. And I don't know if it's because I can't really have all my supplies out because of the kittens. So I do have to like do a lot of back and forth, going and grabbing what I need. And that does slow me down. And I do think it's also just a factor of like this group's a little bit messier. So it takes a little bit longer to clean the individual items. And I also can't just vibe to my music because it's in the living room. So like that does actually slow me down because I don't ever hit the same groove I do with the big cages. But as for the big cages, as for the big cage cleaning day, I mean, that I start usually like 8:30 or 9 and I'm not done until 12:30 or 1. It takes me a long time. And that is just the cleaning part. It doesn't include gathering the supplies or the cleanup afterward, because we all know that once you're done cleaning the cage, you then have to clean the room that you cleaned the cage in because it's a mess. It's a huge mess. As for nesting materials, I do like to use packing paper. Toilet paper rolls are good. Receipt rolls actually are pretty good too. Those are even easier than toilet paper rolls because they don't get mashed down. And then I have crinkle paper and I have basically anything my family sees as trash they like offer me for the rats, which I do find hilarious. And I give them the paper bag because they just really enjoy a paper bag. I don't know. Rats are simple creatures sometimes. They're just like, paper bag? Absolutely yes. So, and then I like to give them boxes, and then the hammocks, I like to give them a few hammocks because I use at least one as like basically, what's it called? A catch, like a safety net, basically the one at the bottom. and just make sure that if fall break, that's what I'm thinking of. Just make sure if they fall, they don't go all the way to the bottom. And I like to have bridges and ropes in there as well. So yeah, that's kind of how my cage cleaning routine works. I hope that this video was enjoyable, even though it came out way messier than I intended it to be, since my footage didn't come out the way I kind of wanted it to. But if I do decide to make this an annual video, A, if you're interested in that, please let me know. B, I will do better next time. I'll make sure that the camera is working for the slow footage, so it's not just a time lapse that's very short, because time lapses tend to condense long lengths of time. So like I said, it's an hour and a half condensed down into just 30 seconds or so. So yeah, just please, just let me know if you guys enjoyed this one. And if you want it to become more of an annual thing with better footage. It probably won't be like the really good aesthetic footage that a lot of people do with cage cleans, because I do not have the patience to slow down my cage cleaning process so much to get that footage, because it does take me so long. And I just don't necessarily want to spend the entire time having to constantly focus on the camera, constantly make sure everything's going good, moving it, turning it off, turning it back on, that kind of thing. I much would rather just do this kind of thing where you can see the cage, I can explain what I'm doing. I can do befores and afters. I probably should have done that this time, but this is my first time doing like a cage cleaning video, because I just could never convince myself to do it before. And to be fair, it did go wrong. So like, was I in the wrong for not being able to convince myself? I don't think so. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it's kind of messy, especially with my voiceover, but I do hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you know what to do. All the fun stuff down below. And I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.